Every few years, the images return. Sirens. Rockets. Burning cities. Another headline, War in the Middle East. And the question resurfaces. Why does peace never last? For decades, diplomacy tried. Trillions were spent. Leaders changed. Still, when one war ends, another ignites. Because these are not isolated conflicts. They are part of a system. The region was shaped inside a global power struggle. Borders were drawn for strategy. Rivals were armed. Oil turned land into leverage. Ordinary people paid the price. This is not chaos. It is competition over energy, trade routes, influence. Global powers push. Regional actors resist. Alliances form, then fracture. As long as that contest continues, peace stays temporary. Ceasefires pause the violence. They do not end the fight. So the real question is not why war keeps returning. It is this. Was the region ever designed for peace? Or built to sit on the fault line of global power? Because what happens there will shape who defines the next era. Why does one war end and another immediately begin? Since the creation of Israel in 1948, the Middle East has rarely experienced lasting stability. At first, wars were fought between governments. Armies faced armies. Then the battlefield changed. Militias expanded. Armed factions multiplied. Non-state actors seized momentum. Conflicts that should have remained local spilled across borders. Fighting in Gaza heightens tension in Lebanon. War in Yemen disrupts global shipping. U.S. forces face attacks in Iraq and Syria. Each conflict triggers another. But the real shock isn't the frequency of war. It's the connection between them. No conflict stands alone. One event in one country can ignite escalation across the region. The Middle East operates like a chain reaction, and that makes it different. And here is why it matters. For the United States and Europe, the impact never stays contained. Energy prices surge. Migration flows increase. Terror risks intensify. Western militaries get pulled back in. Vital sea lanes that sustain the global economy come under threat. The Middle East is not a distant battlefield. It is a pressure center, and the shockwaves always travel outward. The core problem isn't religion. It isn't culture. It's how the region was built. Before the 20th century, most of the Middle East stood under the Ottoman Empire. For centuries, different ethnic and religious communities lived inside a single political structure. Then World War I shattered it. The empire collapsed. A power vacuum opened. Britain and France stepped in and redrew the map to fit their strategic interests, not the realities on the ground. New states like Iraq and Syria emerged from those lines. Communities with different histories and rivalries were pushed into the same borders. From day one, the foundations were fragile. Without a strong shared identity, stability struggled to take hold. Internal fractures widened. Power became contested. Then came the second force, oil. The Middle East holds a large share of the energy that powers the modern world. That transformed the region into a global prize. Powers like the United States and Russia could not stay out. They built alliances. Backed governments. Protected influence. And this is where the danger deepens. Conflicts that should remain local rarely do. When one state weakens, regional rivals and global powers step in, directly or through proxies. The Middle East is not unstable by accident. It sits at the intersection of broken foundations and global ambition. Too important to ignore. Too contested to rest. If one axis explains much of the modern turmoil in the Middle East, it is this rivalry. It began in 1979, with the Iranian Revolution. Tehran stopped seeing Washington as a partner and started treating it as a strategic enemy. But Iran did not choose direct confrontation. Instead, it built influence through militias and armed groups across Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, Gaza, and Yemen. The strategy was calculated: expand power without triggering a full-scale war that could devastate the state itself. Washington responded differently. The United States reinforced military bases across the region. It tightened alliances with Israel and Gulf states. Rather than launching open war against Iran, it relied on sanctions, diplomatic pressure, and regional partnerships. The result is something unusual: a war without declaration. No formal battlefield between two armies. No official state-to-state invasion. Yet clashes persist through proxies, airstrikes, cyber operations, and shadow campaigns. And here is the consequence. Gaza is not only about Israel and the Palestinians. Yemen is not just a civil war. Iraq is not simply about extremist groups. Beneath each conflict lies a broader contest for influence between two powers that refuse to fight directly but also refuse to retreat. As long as this rivalry endures, instability regenerates. Not because one war failed to end, but because the central struggle never truly did. The result is not decisive victory. It is not permanent peace. It is a system. For decades, wars in the Middle East have ended but never truly concluded. One front cools down. Another ignites. Often with the same actors, wearing different uniforms. Iran-backed militias remain active across multiple arenas. The United States keeps forces in place to protect strategic interests and allies. No single event settles the rivalry. What exists instead are pauses between cycles of tension. This is controlled escalation. Pressure stays high enough to preserve leverage, but below the threshold of full-scale war between major powers. Ceasefires hold, then crack. Negotiations begin, then collapse. Tension never disappears. It waits. And the impact travels. Energy markets react. Migration flows move toward Europe. Western governments face constant pressure to stay engaged militarily, diplomatically, strategically. In the end, the Middle East is not just a conflict zone. It has become part of the global balance of power, a system where full peace proves elusive, because too many interests collide, and too many powers refuse to step back. If conflict in the Middle East is not a chain of historical accidents, but the product of borders drawn without solid foundations, global competition over energy, and great power rivalries that never truly end, then perhaps the more honest question is no longer, when will the next war begin? It is this: is lasting peace in the Middle East truly possible? Or has the world quietly accepted that the region will remain a permanent arena for global power struggles?